This is the start of a brand new series of videos where we're exploring what it means to be part of the church. Now, the question you might have is the same that many people have. Why? Why should I invest a significant portion of my time, my energy, my abilities and my money to be part of the church? Well, the simple answer to that question is the same answer to anything we're thinking of investing in. It's because the rate of return is worth it, or the vision is worth investing in. Now, I'll let you decide which one is relevant for investing in this thing called the church. Now, this isn't a sales pitch. I'm not trying to convince you why I think you should invest in the church. I simply want to set out clearly what it means to be part of the church. What you do or don't do is up to you. I'm not on any commission. They say that quality lasts. You know how good something is if it's still around in years to come. You know something is well made if it doesn't break under pressure. Now, if we apply that same thought to the church, we would see that it's of extreme quality. It's lasted for 2 millennia and it's withstood extreme pressure. So much so that some would go as far as saying that it's a miracle that the church has survived. It shouldn't still be here. Against all odds and all expectations, it survived everything that was thrown against it. It shouldn't have survived Jerusalem and the first century, let alone have spread across the entire world and still be going strong 2,000 years later. Think about it. How did a bunch of uneducated fishermen, tax collectors, and whatever the other disciples did create something that would spread across the entire globe and change the course of human history? Andy Stanley, the senior minister from North Point Church in Atlanta, asked this question. How did a first century cult birthed in the armpit of the Roman Empire, whose leader was rejected by his own people and crucified, survive and thrive in the face of violent, organised, state-funded resistance? The Roman Empire was the first major obstacle that the church faced. Powerful men like Caesar Augustus, Nero, and Maximus Aurelius, he's the guy from the Gladiator film, they all tried and failed to put a stop to it. The Colosseum in Rome, a signal of Rome's strength and power, was dedicated to the persecution and the execution of Christians, of people who dared to follow and worship Jesus instead of Caesar. So how is it that in the 4th century, a cross, the symbol of the thing the Roman Empire was trying to destroy, hung over the emperor's entrance to the great Colosseum? The meaning is loud and clear. Jesus is greater than the emperor. Jesus is greater than Rome itself. The fact that we know anything about Jesus 2,000 years on and over 2,000 miles away from where he lived is amazing. But what's more amazing is that Jesus predicted it. This is how it all happened. See, Jesus and his first followers were on their way to Caesarea Philippi. It's a place that was known for the worship of other gods. There were temples and shrines to a whole array of pagan gods. There was even a temple to Caesar there, declaring Caesar Augustus to be God. And surrounded by all these symbols, Jesus asked his disciples, "Who do you think I am?" Peter replied, "Well, you're the Messiah. You're the Son of the living God." Peter is saying that Jesus is divine, that Jesus is God. He's surrounded by all these other temples and shrines that are there to catch people's attention so they would worship whatever God it was that they represented. And he looks Jesus in the eye, declaring him to be his God. Later, Peter, along with the other followers of Jesus, would declare Jesus to be the one true God. And Jesus smiles as he responds to Peter, saying, "On this rock I will build." And he uses this Greek word, ekklesia. Now, here we start to see what the church is and what it isn't. This isn't the church. It's not a building. It's not a place we go to. It's also not something we do. The church is something we are. Now, the word ekklesia literally means called out. It's a gathering. It's an assembly of people who gather together with a purpose. It's a movement. Now, the word church comes from the German word Kirche, which refers to a public building. It refers to a place where people meet. Now, I personally think adopting this German word to describe who we are was a big mistake. It became more about the building or the place we gathered rather than the reason we are called to gather. The church became a physical, static location and moved away from the movement that Jesus created us to be. Jesus says to Peter, on this rock I will build my ecclesia, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. Now, the gates of Hades was a physical place. It was in Caesarea Philippi. You know, there was this place called Pan's Grotto, and in it was a well that was thought to be bottomless. The entrance to this cave was called the gates of Hades. The people of Jesus' time thought that this was the entrance to the underworld. You know, it was thought to be a powerful and a mysterious place. And I think Jesus was saying, you see all these temples and all these shrines to other gods, none of them will stop this new movement. Nothing will overcome it. Jesus is picturing and describing a future reality, a gathering of people focused on continuing what he started, a community of people who've experienced difficulty and oppression, but have against all odds overcome whatever tried to stand in its way. Powerful men like Caesar and Nero tried to stop Jesus and this new movement. They tried to stand in its way, but now they're reduced to a footnote in his story. The reason we know about them today is because of Jesus. If it wasn't for Jesus, Caesar wouldn't even be immortalized in a salad and Nero in a coffee shop. Surviving the first 300 years was unexpected, but that's got nothing on what happened next. This gathering, this movement believed in what Jesus said and was inspired by what Jesus did. They carried on what he started and the world was transformed. I know the church has had its fair share of skeletons in its closet. I know there's a bunch of people who've used this movement for their own gain or their own cause. There have been things done in the name of Jesus that has nothing to do with Jesus. Things that have caused great pain and suffering. But the church has more than its fair share of goodness. Healthcare, education, and modern notion of charity finds its origins in Jesus and his church. But there's more. Musical notation, glasses to help people see, and champagne was invented because of people practically following Jesus. And there's a story behind each one. The church was at the forefront of the abolition of slavery, the human rights movement, the Renaissance, and the Reformation. The world today is different because of the willingness of everyday people to faithfully follow Jesus, applying and living out the things that he said and the things he did. And I think this is what Jesus pictured as he predicted his church with his first followers in Caesarea Philippi. Now, a few years later, a guy called Paul comes along. Paul was instrumental in the spread of the Christian faith across the known world. And he planted lots of churches and wrote a bunch of letters to instruct and encourage and challenge this growing church. We've got these letters in the New Testament section of the Bible. And in one of the letters to the Christians in Corinth, Paul says this: just as a body, though one, has many parts, but all its parts form one body, so it is with Christ. Now, if the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I don't belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. Now, you are the body of Christ, and each one of you is a part of it. You know, this is a picture of the ecclesia, the church. And in it is the secret behind why this movement has had such an impact on the world throughout its history. Our culture rewards and celebrates significance. We put people on pedestals, elevating them and almost worshipping them because of their significance. The more significant you are, the more important and valuable you are. And I don't think that this is a modern day phenomenon. It's part of our human psyche. Jesus comes along and he invites people to be part of his ecclesia, his church, his body. He invites people to come and play their part. To do this requires a significant shift in our thinking. It requires us to let go of our desire to be significant and instead to choose to be part of something significant. So do you want to be part of something significant or just a significant part of something? Do you want to be part of something that makes a difference, that causes people to stop and take notice? Or do you want to be the thing that causes people to stop and take notice? Do you want to be part of something significant, or do you just want to be significant yourself? The latter is more about us than it is about what we're part of. It's about our identity and our ego. We all have the tendency to want to be a significant part of something. We want people to notice us, to value us, to look up to us. Now, the reason why this bunch of insignificant people had such a significant impact on the world was because they were willing to let go of their significance for the sake of the mission in front of them. Carrying on what Jesus had started was far more significant than anything they could do by themselves. And as this movement spread across the world and throughout history, more and more people saw the significance of what it meant to be part of this movement. More and more people were willing to let go of their personal significance for the sake of the mission. The church was full of people who were focused on being part of something significant rather than just wanting to be a significant part of something. Now, that in itself isn't enough to explain the global impact that this movement has had over the last 2 millennia, especially in the face of the obstacles and the oppression that the church has faced throughout its history. A willingness to let go of your personal significance, to be part of Jesus' body, to be part of his ecclesia, creates space for God to do something significant. It requires humility and devotion to be part of Jesus' body. Devotion to Jesus and to his mission and to his body, to his church. And when we have this, God is able to be at work in us and through us. We do what we can do, and God does what only he can do. The life and world transforming impact that the church has had isn't because of the abilities of its members. It's because of the willingness, the passion and the desire of people who are part of this body. Jesus has chosen to work in partnership with us. Now, of course, he doesn't need us, but for some reason, he's chosen to build his church through us. He does this with us, and he won't do it without us. That's why Paul uses the imagery of the church being the body of Jesus. It shows connection and unity of purpose. It shows us that our identity is in Jesus, not in what we do or who we are by ourselves. The church has had a significant impact on the world because it was made up of people who were willing to be part of the body. Now, unfortunately, we have a tendency of forgetting that we're part of the body. We have a tendency to forget that we're part of a movement. And so we're in danger of becoming a curse. We become more focused on where we meet or what we do when we meet than we do about the movement that Jesus has called us to be part of. I'm not saying that where we gather or what we do when we gather isn't important. It is. But it should be focused on why we exist. What we do when we gather should be focused on the mission, the movement that Jesus has called us to be part of. To invest in the church is to be part of the body. And when we forget we're part of the body, we become disconnected from it. You might be a foot or a hand or a toe. Our desire for personal significance means we want to be a significant part of the body. I want to be an eye or a mouth. I don't want to be an armpit. Now, let's say you're a thumb. Now, don't read too much into that. When it comes to the body of the church, you're a thumb. What happens to the thumb when it forgets it's part of the body? When I was a kid, my uncle had an accident at work and he chopped off part of his thumb. Now, because kids can be mean and insensitive, we would often tease him about it when we were growing up. He's called Arthur and he has half a thumb. That's gold for a 6-year-old. I've met many people in church life who are like my uncle's thumb. Somewhere along the line, they got disconnected. There's a bunch of reasons why this happens, often really valid reasons. The church is a body which is made up of a bunch of imperfect people. And being part of a community like this is not always easy. Things happen that make us feel a bit disconnected. The problem comes, though, when we disconnect ourselves. We forget that we're called to be part of the body. We forget that we're a thumb and we need the other parts of the hand and the body to function and to thrive. We forget that the church is a movement that Jesus invites us to be part of, rather than a building we visit or a service we attend. And so we disconnect, we disengage, and all that happens is we become a severed limb. We suffer, and the rest of the body suffers because of it. The only hope for a severed thumb is to be reattached. Now, that wasn't possible with my uncle's thumb, but it is possible for you. You know, if you feel like this severed thumb, let me encourage you to be engaged, or perhaps to re-engage. The church is far bigger than FBC. You know, we're part of this body, but we're not the fullness of it. Jesus invites you to be part of his body, not ours. But there's always a but, and it's a big one. You know, we exist to help you be part of the wider body, to be part of his ecclesia, his church, his body. And I thoroughly believe that in engaging in the life of FBC will help you engage in the life of his church. I'm not saying that this is the only way you can do it. I'm just saying that engaging here will help you be connected into his church. To be part of church means we're invested. And for us at FBC, it means we invest in something that is focused on helping people find and follow Jesus. It's about being part of a family, a body that does all it can to help people who are curious or skeptical about faith discover what it means to find it, and as they find it, to flourish in it. It's about creating a place for kids and young people that helps them discover a faith of their own, a faith that lasts, a faith that not only survives the challenges of adolescence, but thrives in it. It's about creating a space where our community feel accepted, where they feel valued and loved. It's about being the hands and feet and the mouth and the ears of Jesus to the community and the world around us, demonstrating and declaring the good news that Jesus has for them. It's about being part of something that is transforming lives and transforming our community. The church isn't a building, it's a body. It's a body that is focused on the purpose for why it was created. A body that is made up of many bodies. So if you're part of it, be part of it. Don't be a severed thumb. And if you're not part of it, well, what's stopping you? In the next few messages, we will explore how we can be invested and part of this body.